Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Woolwine, and we are here with Chucky Bates. How we doing, man?
I'm doing great, Justin. How about you? Thank you for having me on here.
Absolutely. I'm also doing great. Excited to be here. Excited to learn more about you. Like I told you off air, been looking at some of your stuff. Your character work seems very interesting. I'm definitely interested in the ins and outs of your character and your journey so far.
Yeah.
Um, but before we dive into those things, I always try to give you guys the room to get your plugs in, let the people know where they can find you on social media, things like that. So, would you like to let the audience know where they can check up the latest happenings with Chucky
Oh
Bates?
yeah. I'm always here in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee specifically, but you can find me in nearly every wrestling company in Wisconsin if you're really looking hard enough. But in terms of social media, you can always find me at Demented Chucky Bates or just Demented Bates, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or even TikTok. I'm on all of them, usually as at Demented Bates.
Gosh, perfect. Um, with that said, usually here on the podcast, I start with the most basic of questions. I think most interviewers start with it, but when did you find professional wrestling?
Okay, so when I when I was young, my dad, he was a big baseball fan. He played baseball. He always took me to the baseball games. I didn't, truth be told, I didn't know what wrestling was until I turned 14.
Okay.
Uh, when he sadly passed away, my passion for baseball kind of went with him, and I struggled for the next few years to figure out what I really wanted or what I could be passionate about. Like I had no passion for any sport that I was in. But and this is crazy because it's kind of how a lot of people's relationships with wrestling start. I found out about these little action figures, but not the normal sized ones that everybody knows of. I'm talking about these very tiny ones. They were about this big. They were just a few inches tall, and or an inch tall if we're getting really specific about it. They were called WWE Rumblers at the time, and I was a big fan of anything that was like considered a tiny action figure. And they you had just like characters like The Undertaker, you had John Cena. My brother was a big fan of Rey Mysterio. I didn't even know they were real people at the time until people that I knew started name dropping them and were like, how do you know their names? They action figures that just came out. And then a few months later, my uncle, who was a massive Crusher fan, he loved everything old school. He said, I believe on either his or someone else he knew who was getting married, on the wedding night, they were watching Mania 3, the one with Hogan and Andre. And he brought me to my first wrestling event. I got to see a lot of stars that um, I didn't know who they were at the time because they weren't current stars, but the longer I watched wrestling, the more incredible it was that I got to watch them live. I got to witness the Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I got to witness Axe and Smash Demolition. Funaki was there. Rikishi and Too Cool, they were the main event. Uh, and Al Snow, he was in a street fight that night, and that set me off. I fell head over heels for wrestling just right then and there. And after that, my mother would surprise me with a trip to the Bradley Center is what it was called, our big
Okay.
stadium in the center of Milwaukee. She took me to the Bradley Center for a SmackDown show, and just every time I went to a show, any wrestling show, I just kept saying to myself, I want to do this. I want to try this. And after that, I started roughhousing with my brother in the backyard. And after a while of me just moping around the house without a sport to do, my mother was just like, "Why don't you see if there's a training academy near here? I guarantee it's the only one is not just in Florida. Like you could probably find one here." And so I looked it up and I got in contact with uh, former AWA star and WWE uh, enhancement talent, Frankie DeFalco. And he's been my trainer ever since. And that was, I'd say in March, that would be about 9 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah. I
So
started training for Frankie in March of 2017, and I've been with him ever since.
9 years so far, long journey.
Oh yeah.
Um, what about professional wrestling took like gravitated you towards it? Because I mean, obviously, there's matches, moves, stories, the brutality of it. Like, what about it just made it click for you?
Well, you kind of answered the question right there. Like you said, it's the ability to tell a story, and that's what always intrigued me about wrestling is just like you can tell a story within 10 to 30 minutes, and you don't have to sit in a theater for an hour and a half. But that's not the whole reason why I love it, but it's a big reason. Like it's a big reason of why I still love it now because I'm able to tell a story. Um, but yeah, I'd say the other thing about it is everybody, lots of non-wrestling fans would call it just a glorified stunt show or something, or they would say other stuff about professional wrestling. I think of it as a movie you get to witness
Yeah.
firsthand. Like it's one take. You're not gonna be able to watch a movie in the theater as it's being made, but you can with wrestling because that's exactly what it is. You're watching a story being made right then and there. And even if you don't think you're watching a story, you you're watching the future or the past or the present. You're watching all of it in one show.
Who were some of the characters or superstars that you paid most attention to whenever you started getting into it?
When I started watching professional wrestling, like not when I was training, but when I first watched it, I was a big Cena fan, and then I became a really big Kane fan. I loved the the creepy red gaze that he had, but ultimately it just spoke levels to me that a guy that creepy, that scary, or just that enormous and threatening could get over with a crowd like that. Like if anybody's ever seen um his 2000 return with Paul Bearer when the lights go out and then the fire explodes and he just marches down to the ring where there's like 10 wrestlers in there and he just lays waste to them, that crowd reaction, it spoke to me. Like it was something special, and I'm so glad I got to watch it online, but I'm also so sad I never got to see it in person because 2000 was when I was born, so there was no way I would have known what wrestling was back then. But it's something spectacular, and I could safely say the same thing about Mick Foley, who after Kane would have been the guy I watched the most. Foley, that was a story I loved to watch because he was just the easiest way I could put it is he was in an era where they might not have been looking for the best looking athletes, but all of their top guys looked like superheroes. But what did Foley look like? He looked like a trucker. He looked like a fat plumber, kind of like Dusty Rhodes, but He was he was the most over guy in the company, and he got over genuinely with the crowd. They loved him, and that was inspiring.
Have you been able to take any of the character traits from maybe a Kane or a Mick Foley and use them to maybe build Chucky Bates?
I've tried. Like I watched a lot of Mankind when I was first starting in training and whatnot, but ultimately it was a lot of the very old school, the missing link Yeah, from back in the early WWF days. But it was a little bit of that, and more specifically, um, sorry, this is a little complicated, but I gotta tell a short story real quick because it's the only way I can describe how I found my character.
Of course.
So Frankie wasn't my only trainer. I was also trained by Beer City Bruiser, Matt Winchester. He was Ring of Honor superstar for quite a few years until Ring of Honor went over for the pandemic. Um, I just remember being in camp with them one day, and Matt, who had been all over the world and was bringing like his drills that he had learned from Japan to our camp and teaching us them so that we could know what to do in a scenario like if we were ever put there. But he had us work a drill, and he told me he wanted me to be a heel for the first time, and I had no idea how to be a face, let alone a heel. And and he just said, I want to see you try and be a heel. Put a headlock on him and be a heel. And so when I locked up with my partner, as I was putting the headlock on, I was overthinking in my head, like, what the heck am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And at the time, I was a really big Gotham fan. I'm still a huge Batman fan, but I was a really big Gotham watcher at the time. I wasn't watching Game of Thrones or anything. I was watching Gotham. And I had just finished an episode where it ended with the entire city just bursting into psychotic laughter. Like that's how they ended the episode. Like somebody had done something on the TV that drove half the town into madness, and just randomly, while I had him in a headlock, I just started maniacally laughing and and try to make it seem kind of uncomfortable while I was doing it. And Matt Matt made me think that I had done something wrong because as soon as I started doing that, he was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 stop, stop, stop!" And then he goes, "Do that again. I like that. Let's see it again." And so we did the drill again, and I did the same exact thing. And then the next week, next thing you know, my Frank is telling me you should get a straight jacket because now you're gonna walk to the ring like that. And that's pretty much where it took off from there. I just kept pulling. I pulled ideas from comics. I pulled ideas from movies and TV shows about serial killers and psychopaths. I even did some research on real inmates. But I'd
Okay.
say like my best my my best studying was that there were these patient interview tapes you could listen to if you were ever playing Batman Arkham Asylum. Some days I would just do push-ups and listen to those interview tapes, and I would just be like, "Oh, that would be good for a promo. That would be good to say in the ring. That wouldn't be good to say in the ring, but let's see." Yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
I like that because it's different. A lot of wrestlers or a lot of guys or girls, I mean, only take their inspiration from wrestling. So to find something, I mean, so popular like Batman or Gotham or Arkham, Asylum, like to take those and to utilize those
Oh
into
yeah.
developing a character is really intricate and it takes a lot of time and thinking. So
Mm,
it's kind of masterful that you've been able to do that.
yeah. And it's very hard now because it feels like everything has been done. Like
Okay.
every character that could be made for wrestling, it feels like it's been done. There's not a lot of unique characters nowadays. And so that was what I kept being told by my trainers, and that was I don't want to just be a second something else. Like that's why I tried to stay away from the Mankind stuff because if I acted too much like him, people would just say, "Hey, you're Mankind 2.0." Cool, but I don't want to be known as that. Or I don't want people to say, "Oh, hey, it's Heidenreich 2.0 or something, or it's Heidenreich's son." Like, you got to be something different. I gotta be, I gotta be this crazy lunatic in a straitjacket that no one's seen before. Or if they have seen it before, I'm gonna do it different so they can say they haven't seen it before.
Gotcha. What's the origin story behind the name Chucky Bates?
That's very short. It's we were just going through names, and one day we were at training. We were doing we were doing laps around the parking lot because we do that all the time. And as soon as we got done running laps, my I think it was Beer City Bruiser, but it could have been Frank who told him. Either way, it's just Bruiser comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, what if we called you Demented Chucky Bates?" And at the time, I thought it was such a stupid idea, and I can't see myself wrestling without it now. I can't see myself wrestling in any name other than Demented Chucky Bates now, because as ridiculous as it is, that's what I'd say the glory about it is, because
Okay,
it's ridiculous, and but people are gonna say it anyway.
definitely. Upon doing research, looking at, sites like Cage Match and things like that, it looks like you've done a lot of work with Brew City Wrestling. Would you consider that your home promotion?
Yes, in recent years I've made two home promotions, but basically Brew City is my home promotion because that is Frankie's show. So I was brought into this wrestling business through Thumper's Den, which was the training school, and Thumper's Den is basically Bruce City Wrestling. Yeah, it's just the camp for Bruce City Wrestling. So yeah, I've been with Bruce City for all of my 8.5 to 9 years. And my other home company that I work every month is Insane Championship Wrestling Milwaukee. It's run by Dysfunction or Deathmatch guy Dysfunction. He's been running ICW for a long time, I think since 2006.
Okay.
Probably longer than that, but he brought me into his company to work into 2020, right after the everything started opening up. And ever since then, that has been my home away from home, basically.
Okay. How was your team with Gunnar Wicks, the Killer Instinct? How was that born?
How was that formed?
Yeah.
Okay, so Gunnar Wicks, he was really new at the time, and he was he was doing a few different things. Like they had him doing a Russian gimmick, they had him being a bodyguard, and nothing was really clicking. And then he was in this I believe he was in this kendo stick match where he started getting some momentum, but it ultimately didn't work. And so they just decided, since I was not doing anything at the time, they threw me together with him, and it was magic. Like we teamed for the first time against two buddies of mine that I happened to debut against, which is Chuco and Manny, the Caribbean Arrogance, but at the time they were called the Caribbean Connection. Um, I've known those guys since I debuted, or they've been training with me just as long as I've been training as a wrestler. And the fact that we got to debut against them was something special. And I already knew it was going to be something special just going into that match. But when the match was over, I'd done stuff I had never done before. And on top of that, I felt at home being in a tag team with this guy because he was a monster and our character work was top notch. And we just brought that everywhere.
What was it like winning the tag titles with him?
I'm so mad that it's not documented, but or maybe it's documented, but I really wish I recorded it because back then I didn't record any of my matches, and I'm kind of ticked off at myself for it. That's a word of advice. Always record your matches because you never know when you'd want to watch the really old ones back. But we had a show in Twin Lakes, Wisconsin. It was another Bruce City show, but we were trying a different venue. We
Hmm.
had wrestled a match against, I believe it was the Vape God Fletch Malone and uh, the Outlaw Zach Hendricks. We just worked a normal tag against them earlier in the night, and then later in the night we ended up working the Brew City Wrestling tag team champions at the time, which I, if memory serves me right, it was Brandon Blaze and Nick Colucci. They were the tag champions at the time, and I think this was our third or fourth time teaming together, and it was just one of those. We went out there, we did what we did, we came out on top, one, two, three, and it was it was actually very special to me, and I'm still very ticked off at myself that I didn't record it because it wasn't just the fact that we won it, it was the fact that it was our first time kind of feeling like baby faces. Because at that time, I had never been a baby face. I'd never been a face, never been cheered before. And that night, we did something different. We ended the night on top, even though earlier in the night we were way low on the totem pole for those fans' favorites.
How does like your mentality shift when you go from getting booed and being hated to all of a sudden now you're cheered and you're liked?
Oh, that's actually a tough question because I want to say that nothing really changes. It's I just go out there and I do something. I'm not gonna behave differently. When they see me going out there, I'm gonna rip somebody's skin up. I want to beat the heck out of them. I'm gonna stiff punch them as hard as I can. I'm gonna make sure the fans believe whatever they're seeing, whether I'm a face, whether I'm a heel. They're gonna cheer me. They're gonna boo me. They're gonna see something, and I think that's why Milwaukee kind of took a liking to me because there's a difference between Milwaukee style wrestling and like Chicago style wrestling, but it's not just Chicago, it's other places, and it's not just Milwaukee, it's other places. Like some states are known for working stiff, kind of like Bruiser Brody did, or kind of like how Big Van Vader did, and some other places it's run a bit differently. But just throughout my entirety of wrestling in Wisconsin, I have always been told to work stiff, and that was because Frankie, when he was getting involved with WWE way back in the day, like he had to work matches against guys like Andre the Giant and Haku, and those guys were stiff. They were the
Yeah.
stiffest guys in the roster at the time. And so of course Frank taught me how to work that way, and Matt was exactly the same way. He was trained by Harley Race, another one of the stiffest workers on the planet. So they they brought that kind of teaching to us. Um,
Okay.
but to answer your question, like my mentality doesn't really change whether I'm a face or I'm a heel. I think it's just like I'm a little bit more graceful towards the fans. Like it's we have a lot of great fans here in Wisconsin. I love a lot of them. They're so uplifting here. And I've met quite a few of them outside of Wisconsin too. But that also means that the few that don't pay attention to me, I get to rip into them every day.
Okay. Sometimes I've heard like something similar to yourself, like where um maybe what you do doesn't change, but why you do it changes. Would that make sense?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Okay. Um just going back to Gunner, what's been your favorite moment working with Gunner throughout your career so far?
My favorite moment with him?
Yeah.
Well, I would have to say my favorite moment with him, and it's gonna be a shocker, but my favorite moment with him has to be when we ended our recent Three Stages of Hell match because we've been in a blood feud for the last couple months, and oh my God, we were building up to Bruce City's first ever Three Stages of Hell match, something he and I both wanted so badly. And when that match finally happened, there was a lot we didn't do that we really wanted to do, but it didn't matter. We tore the house down. We bludgeoned each other like we've never bludgeoned each other before. And it was just as good as winning any title belt alongside him. He's when you're on the road with someone like that for as long as I've been on the road with him, and you share that many moments with him, just something like this, it just feels way too special to say, oh, it could have just been when we won the tag titles for like the fifth time or something. Yeah, this was
Definitely.
something special.
Somebody like Gunner, who you've been tied to a good portion of your career with, whether you're across the ring from each other or you're tagging, moments like that have to be super special.
Yeah.
And I mean, even just getting in the ring with somebody like that, night in and night out, each moment has to feel special. Would that be right?
Yeah, it always
Okay.
is. I was I was told this by Brandon Blaze a while back. He's one of the guys who's given me the most advice outside of any of my trainers. But he told me a while back because I thought I thought Matt owed him money on a match that they worked this one time because it looked like he tried to kill him, and later he just straightforward told me like the best friends in wrestling will hit each other the hardest because it's not personal. It's one of those things where the curtain gets peeled back and just like, hey, if I'm gonna argue with Gunner in the back, cool. We'll work it out in the ring for real.
Okay.
It's not gonna be
I like
personal.
that.
We're gonna bludgeon each other until we got bruises on our eyes and missing teeth or probably missing bits of our faces. And then when we come to the back, we're gonna have a few beers.
I mean, there's nothing more professional wrestling than that statement.
Yeah.
Um, so like we talked about bludgeoning each other, tearing each other apart. Would you consider yourself like a hardcore or an extreme wrestler?
No. Uh,
Okay.
let me let me just say, I like doing extreme things in wrestling. Uh, anyone who would be willing to watch the Three Stages of Hell match will know that way too well because I did a lot in that. But what I'm talking about is I like to get extreme, but not all the time because I can I don't want to be considered as a deathmatch wrestler because I feel like that's an insult to actual deathmatch wrestlers because I don't do that every month. I don't do that every time I work because it if I do that all the time, it kind of loses the thrill to me. Like wrestling is already a thrill every match I have, whether it's a tag match, whether it's a four-way, a five-way, a 1v1 that ends in a disqualification. It's all something special. And every now and then, like maybe once a month or maybe once every 4 months, I like to break something new out, which would be something no DQ, something crazy. But that's only once in a while. And I mean this because I have done it before. Uh, a while back, for a few shows at ICW, I was working back to back to back no DQ matches, and it kind of dawned on me after a while, like the that stuff's not as fun as they would make it out to be, especially when you're doing it all the time. It makes me have way more respect for guys like Nick Gage or more respect for guys I know like Neil Diamond Cutter and Akira. All those guys do that kind of stuff all the time, and I have way more respect for them now because I only did that for like a couple weeks together. Like I wrestled a no DQ match 1 week, and then the next weekend I did it again. Next weekend I did it again, and then the weekend after that I did the same thing twice in one day, and I was so exhausted by the end of it. I was just like, can I just wrestle a normal match again, please? Like,
Okay.
let me do this once every couple months. Don't make me do this every month. Don't make me do this every week. Just let it be once every now and then. Because when I go at it, I want to go at it hard. And I can't do that all the time because I'm not like that. I can't compare myself to any of those guys because they do it all the time. I can't do it all the time. I can do it. I just can't do it as much.
Makes sense. Makes sense. What brought yourself and Sean Priest together as Evil Inside?
I've known Sean since the moment I started training. He was a former student of Brew City Wrestling, but he's one of the longest tenured guys there. Not the longest tenured guy, but he is a very long tenured guy there, and he was even when I started. But he also has the privilege of being the first guy I ever worked a match with at the camp. Like when I was so new and I only knew how to lock up and put a headlock in, I barely even knew how to do an arm drag or a scoop slam, but Sean threw me in the ring and he called a match to me right then and there. And that was my first time ever working a match. And after that, every time he and I have worked, it's been something special. But what's equally special is that after my first summer tour, we call it the Summer Sizzler Tour because Bruce City's summer, basically Bruce City Wrestling's SummerSlam show. We call it Summer Sizzler, but it's not just the one show. We have all of our fair shows leading up into that and after that too. And during a lot of those fair shows leading up to it, I was working against Sean, which was fun. But as soon as Summer Sizzler hit, I started teaming with him. Not as Evil Inside, but as a faction called the Unholy Alliance. It was myself, uh, Tyler Sullivan, and Stacy Shadows at the time, and also Baxter Belafonte, but at the time he went as a manservant Baxter. We were just the Unholy Alliance. We were the big heel faction in Bruce City. And so for a while, I teamed with him on and off there, but it wasn't until after I had made my face turn some years later and I started gaining some momentum that at ICW, Dysfunction decided to put me and Sean together. So Sean was already a crazy looking voodoo master, and I was already just a psycho under the skin. He decided, let's throw these two together and we'll call them Evil Inside. Let's see what they can do. And it was just gold like that. It was so easy for me to work with Sean, and we took that on the road just like how I did with Gunner. I was also teaming with Gunner on and off at the time, but I was teaming way more with Sean at the time. I'd say we were probably one of the hottest tag teams in Wisconsin at the time. Not the hottest tag team because there were others that were working twice as hard as us, but we were gaining a lot of momentum at the time.
Nice. Yeah, much like I asked about Gunner, what's been your favorite moment with Sean?
Well, this wasn't nearly as impactful as my Three Stages of Hell with Gunner, but I'd say my favorite moment with Sean was just a couple of years ago. I randomly worked him on a February show at Brew City, and I just woke up that day and decided, all right, we are going to put ourselves to work this day. I'm gonna go up to Sean. Hey, let's let's work like we mean it today. I don't care for the first match. I don't care for the second match. Let's work this match as if we're on WWE TV on a on SummerSlam or something. Let's work like we mean it. And he was like, okay, you want to work today, then we'll work. And we put together just like this awesome match. And the whole time, like we were just taking in our moments. It was a long, hard bout, but it's easily my proudest moment working with him.
Um, jumping back to ICW. You spoke briefly about them earlier, but how'd you get your start there? Like, what got your foot in the door?
Like I said, during the 2020 pandemic, or once it stopped and some places started opening up, Dysfunction, he needed bodies because at the time, a lot of his talent was either traveling or they weren't willing to go anywhere because of the pandemic. So he was down a lot of talent. And when he found out that guys from my camp were starting to get back into their work ethic, starting to get their training back, he contacted me, he contacted Gunner, and he was just like, "Hey, you guys want to work on ICW? It'll be the first show to open up. You'll be working Country Air, Zach Hendricks, and Doc Simmons, two of my my other guys that I've trained with over the years." But easily probably my the best tag team I know besides Caribbean Arrogance. Um, so we were brought in and we worked them for the first show. We were at the time we were just the not the opener. We were the second match, so we weren't very high on the card. But he liked what we had to offer so much that he put us a bit higher for his second show. And then after that, we kind of fizzled into the what he calls the VIP show matches, which is essentially the pre-show matches. He had enough talent to fill in like two or three matches before the show started so that he could start getting fans there a little early. And
Gotcha.
and after, Gunner and I started gaining momentum there, and the fans, they just didn't want to boo us because ICW, Insane Championship Wrestling, that they're known for their annual death match tournament called the Insane Eight. So that means that they don't go there for the death matches, but they know something's gonna get violent. And I guess because Gunner and I, we were just the most violent guys there. Of course, they wanted us to do something. We were the biggest, craziest, and probably just the hardest hitting guys there, besides a few others. And just that's what they wanted to see. They wanted to see somebody get bit. They wanted to see somebody get body slammed so hard their back could probably break. They wanted to see violence, and Gunnar and I delivered on that one.
What was it like for you trying to climb the ranks within ICW and then, ultimately go on to win the world title?
It went back and forth. So like when I started, it was just me and Gunnar. And then after he and I fizzled out for the first time, I was kind of on my own. I had to gain momentum on my own, while he was also kind of gaining momentum on his own. I just kept doing as I was told. I kept showing up. I kept working my butt off until I could start actually saying, hey, these fans actually want me to do something here. And then that's when Dysfunction gave me my break, which is still one of my favorite moments in my ICW history. He and I tag teamed together uh, at his company against Jared Jackson, the Apex athlete CJ Cole. We won the ICW tag belts on um, November of 2021, and then we defended them successfully the next month in December. And just like that was something I feel like gave me a bit of a boost because I got to team with the biggest name in ICW. And also, in my opinion, one of the biggest names in Milwaukee professional wrestling today. Because Dysfunction is very well known for being a Milwaukee wrestler right now. And back then. And just like the fact that I was tag teaming with him and we were Insane Evil 2.0 because he had been that same tag team with Chase McCoy years before. But just that gained me some momentum because when we broke off, I went and did singles run for a short period, and things just kept getting higher and higher. Like it was small, and then it kept getting higher and higher. So my matches started going up the card a little bit, and then I got put in the tag team with Sean. Our matches started getting put higher a little bit. Got to the point where we main evented his pre-show for the Insane Eight, which I'm very grateful for. Such a great moment. I just wish it wasn't on such a hot day. Um, yeah, it was so hot I couldn't even put my paint on. Like it was melting off of my hands as I was putting it on my face. Yeah, he chooses the hottest days to put on the deathmatch tournaments outside. But
Of course.
yeah, so after Sean and I disbanded, momentum just kept going up until eventually I got my opportunity to win his Insane Rumble. And when I won that, I got to face the Spectre, Jaden Mercer, for the ICW World Title, and that was my crowning achievement at ICW at the time. My momentum was so big; I was selling merchandise left and right. The fans, they wanted me to win the belt, and when I got there, it just hasn't gotten any lower for me. Like you can put me at the beginning of the card. I love where I'm at now. with that. I'm currently a three-time ICW World Champion. Lost it to the Outlaw Zach Hendricks, and eventually I lost it to Tommy Trainwreck. But that's a different story. I'm just saying I am proud to be where I am at ICW.
Do you see a fourth reign in your future?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
That I lost that. The way I lost that was bull. So there's no possible way I'm gonna let that slide. At some point, demented Chucky Bates will be the ICW World Champion again.
What's it going to take for you to be able to get back into that title picture?
I don't know. Right now, I think the focus is on uh, Zach Hendricks versus Oren Veidt. If you
Okay.
don't know who that is, he's a massive name in the deathmatch community. Once that's done, who knows? I might just make a showing for that.
What like yeah, like when we talk about wrestling, there's always dream match scenarios of Shawn Michaels versus Eddie Guerrero or what have you. Who's your dream match? Who does Chucky want to be able to get in the ring with before you call it a day?
Okay. I had a couple, but only one of them I've actually succeeded in. My first one that I always wanted to step in the ring with was not just Matt Hardy, broken Matt Hardy. That would be something people would want to see, or at least I'd hope they'd want to see. The second one, and this is the one that has happened, Gangrel. I got to work a match with Gangrel in my second year in our Rise to Honor show, which was such an honor. He was such a cool dude. Um, and then my third one, and this is the one I just really want the most, just because I've met the guy a couple of times and he's so nice, but yet just everything he does in the ring is what I want to be a part of. And that's the guy Sammy Callahan. I met him a couple times while I was helping out for MLW, while I was doing security for TNA, or at the time it was Impact. Just long story short, I've met him a couple times and he was super cool, dude, every time I met him. And I desperately want to work a match with him because I feel like it would just be a great collision of personalities with that one.
I've never met Sammy, but I've met people very close to Sammy. Like I've had conversations with Rich Swan and Jake Christ, who are very close with Sammy, and they've all said he's such a mind for the business, and
I
like
believe it.
they've always put over how maybe Sammy should be on a bigger platform. Like he's on TNA, but like maybe he should be a star of a WWE or an AEW at the top of the card. Is that something that you could agree with?
Oh, absolutely. Unfortunately, I kind of see why he doesn't. I mean, this is just an opinion because I don't really know the story, but I know that he tried for NXT and it didn't go so well, and that's why he jumped ship to Lucha Underground, which is where he really gained momentum, and after that he went to Impact, and that's where he's basically been a star since. I could see him just as much being a star of Ring of Honor or AEW. Uh, I think he's a pretty well-known star of Impact or I mean TNA. It's so weird saying Impact instead of TNA or TNA instead of Impact now. It's kind of weird,
It
but he
feels like two different companies.
it does. It really does. But he's been a big star of TNA for a while now. But yes, I do think he should be on a bigger scale.
You said earlier that you've got to do like security work and things like that for TNA, correct?
Yeah, I've done security work for TNA before, and I've also done security work for Ring of Honor, and Major League Wrestling. I was about to say
Okay.
New Japan, but that was not me. I helped build the ring for New Japan. I did not do security. Um,
What's it like working the different or helping the different companies? Like, is there a big difference in how things are ran at each one?
Not necessarily. Some places have a bit of a different, like set of rules, like or not rules. I just mean like they have a different structure to them. Like sometimes I'll just show up and I'll just say, "Hey, I'm here to help out with the ring. Cool, it's over there. Go help them." And other times, like when I helped out for New Japan, we showed up and we had to meet the guy running the ring setup, and he would direct us individually what to do. And in that case, he just told all of us to go work on the ring. But after that, he gave each of us a separate combination of orders.
Okay.
Um, but as for Ring of Honor, they just pooled all the guys who were allowed to be on TV or all the guys who were allowed to be security. Like he just pulled all of them together and he just went, we can use these guys for a bump or two on TV, and these guys can be the ringside security, just getting all the gear and stuff. Um, yeah, that was basically it. Impact is very chill with their set of rules there, but they still choose who's got to be the security and not. But uh, but yeah, in terms of just like structure, they're not all that different.
Makes sense. Makes sense. We've talked a lot about the Milwaukee or Wisconsin independent scene. Um, Somebody who's so familiar with that area, if you had to put together a Mount Rushmore for Milwaukee or Wisconsin, who would be on that?
For Milwaukee, currently, or just Milwaukee in terms of like timeline.
You know what? We'll do both just for the fun of it.
Okay, because if we're talking prior, I would say the most famous ones obviously got to go to the Crusher because he's the one that made Milwaukee wrestling famous. I would obviously put Frankie DeFalco on there because he's also one of the guys that made Milwaukee famous for well not specifically for indie wrestling, but his company is well known, especially in the state of Wisconsin. Besides Frankie, and sorry, I had him right there. I had the name right there. That's it. Dysfunction. I don't know why it took me a minute to remember that, but yeah, it's got to be Dysfunction. He's been working for so long, and I still see some of his stuff from when he was doing tours with IWA and CZW, but he's still well known for being a Milwaukee guy, and so he's obviously got to go up there. And then the last one, and I just say I'm not just saying this because he was also one of the guys that helped me out, but I got to put him on there because he also worked quite a bit around the area, and he's famous for helping out some of the bigger stars of the industry back then, and that's got to be Angel Armani. He to my knowledge, his history in wrestling, he worked a Raw match with Perry Saturn, but I know him because he is just as well known in Wisconsin as Frankie is, in my opinion. And he's responsible for bringing Crusher Fest to light, and that's where I had some of my crowning achievements in professional wrestling. So I have to put him on there. So there's my Mount Rushmore of prior wrestlers that represent Wisconsin wrestling. And if we're talking about the four present guys, and I'm not gonna put myself on there because I'm not gonna be that egomaniac there. um, with what I've seen today, I'm gonna throw. I'm gonna start with my guy Jack Morse because he works everywhere. He works for every wrestling company I see him come across, and he's been helping out and doing merchandise, like making logos and merchandise for nearly every wrestling company in Wisconsin. And that's not the only reason I'm putting on him on here, but it's because he works super hard. So Jack Morris, I would put on there. Um, Second, I would put Zach Hendricks because he's just a he works the hardest I've ever seen out of any of the guys I train or wrestle with here in Wisconsin. He is the hardest working guy I know, and if anybody in Wisconsin currently is ever going to get signed, I would firmly believe it's going to be him. Either him or my next choice. Are we just sticking to wrestlers, or can we put like uh, referees on there too?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so number three would be my boy Dan Perch. Perch is easily the best referee I know. He's not just well known in Wisconsin, he's well known everywhere. He is the hardest working guy I know besides Hendricks. And I mean he works for GCW for crying out loud. He does tours to Japan. If that doesn't make him one of the best referees in this state, let alone this area of the United States, I don't know what does.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Perch is my number three, and my number four. Gotta think on that for 1 second. I don't want to say dysfunction again because I already mentioned him in my last one, but it's just as easily to put him on there because he's still working hard and he's still getting out there. But yeah, I'd say my last one has to go to the Apex athlete CJ Cole because he also works all over the place, but it's not just the fact that he works everywhere. He's well known in this Wisconsin area, and his his work in the ring never ceases to amaze me. Like he's not the best wrestler on the planet, but he always works his hardest in there, and some of that stuff I'm always inspired by because of how hard he works, and even when he doesn't have to.
Love it. One more question, then I'll let you go. We're just over halfway through 2025. What would you say are some of your goals for the remainder of this year?
Well, I'm going to end this with saying one of my biggest goals, but that's reserved for next year. But currently, my biggest goals this year is possibly to win my first ever world championship for Brew City Wrestling. I've won every belt they have except for one, and that is probably my biggest goal in Brew City right now. Besides that, my other goals are that I hope I can start building up that list of more names I could possibly add to that resume. Besides the three that I gave you, I mean, I don't know who would want to see a PCO versus demented Chucky Bates match, but I would definitely work for that. But besides that, just I'm gonna keep traveling. Not last year, but a couple of years ago, I managed to do something I didn't think I'd be able to do, but I did, and that was I traveled all the way down to Texas, and I got paid to stay at a hotel. I got paid to go back. I got to do something that I didn't think I'd be able to do this early in wrestling, but I got to do it. So my goals are just to keep traveling, probably possibly to hit as many states as I can before the end of the year and just build up that list of how many matches I can get at the end of the year. My goal is always to work at least 100 matches by the end of the year. Hasn't happened yet. I've come close, but it's still the goal.
Okay. Okay.
And I'll just end it with my biggest goal, and that's for 2026. And it's because last month before Brew City Wrestling, Frankie brought in Sonny Ono, the Tokyo Monster Kahagis, and Perry Saturn. They ran what's called the Chosen One tryouts. Um, and what that is, it's a tryout, and the winner will get will get a trip to Japan to train for 2 weeks. And the winner of that tryouts, the specific tryout that I attended, will get to go and train with, I believe, Tajiri's company. And I won. I won that tryout, and that's what I'm going to be doing hopefully by next year. And that is one of my biggest goals that is going to be going down next year. Like I wanted to travel outside this country for wrestling, and that is exactly what I am going to be doing. Even if there's the possibility I might not make it on their show, I'm going to work my butt off until I'm able to. Because that is just my goal. I want to say that I traveled the world for wrestling and I got paid to do it.
I love it, and it's well deserved, and it's one of those things
Oh,
that
thank you.
it's a can't miss opportunity for sure. Like being able to travel, and like you said, say that you're a world traveled like a world traveled athlete. It's one of the it's an achievement. Like
Yeah,
I like to go on record. Like I've interviewed people in Canada and Australia and the UK. So it's like, okay, I've interviewed people around the world, and that's an achievement because not
that's
everybody's
very
done that.
cool. Congratulations with that.
Thank you. So like to be able to go to Japan, and I know like a lot of wrestlers consider Japan to be like I don't want to say the place to go wrestle, but like it's on everybody's list of things to do. Like everybody wants to wrestle in Japan, to say they've wrestled in Japan because over there it's so wrestling's held to a different standard.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I can only imagine what it'd be like to not only go to a wrestling event in Japan, but to be able to wrestle or train in that country would be absolutely insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm nervous and excited for it at the same time, but I've worked very hard to get myself ready for it, and I've got a long way to go before I go there, and a long way to go before I'm ready for there. But I'm going to keep working towards it because this is not an opportunity I'm going to let up.
Absolutely. Chucky, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I had a great time.
Oh,
Um, I,
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
I often
appreciate it.
do this, but I'll leave the door open. You ever want to come on for a part two? Do a little
If you ever want
update.
me on for a part two, I'd be very much down to.
Perfect. Before we go, I know we did at the beginning. You want to just shout out your social medias one more time, just in case they
Sure.
missed them at the beginning half.
Sure. You can find me on most social medias under Demented Bates. That's at Demented Bates. If not, you just look up Demented Chucky Bates. You can find me by either of those two on either YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and even Twitter. You can find me under that moniker on all of them.
Sounds good, man. Thank you. And I can't wait to do another one. So I'll leave this off. And see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.